Welcome, everyone, to the Lighter Mind podcast. In the Lighter Mind, we explore spirituality, personal growth, trauma, recovery, and the path to wholeness. The Lighter Mind podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any forms of mental illness. We are not licensed therapists unless otherwise noted, and these are experiential conversations. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lighter Mind. My name is Kyle, and I am here with Mr. Allen and Mr. Crow, and we have been away for a while on a little bit of a hiatus, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on right now. How you boys doing?
We're good. I'm good.
Doing great.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been a while. A lot of things have happened over the last couple of years since. Damn, like when did we do our last podcast? It's been.
I think it was a year ago, February.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's been a while. So, So we're moving to video podcast right now, and we're trying some new things. I live in a different state currently. And so we're kind of doing the best that we can to make this work to the best of our ability. And so we're gonna kind of catch everyone up to speed about where we are and where we're thinking about going with this in the future. So which one of you boys wants to kick this off? How are we? Tell us about life.
Well, I thought we'd start with you. You're the one that moved away. Why did you go, and where are you?
So I moved from Colorado. My wife and I moved out to Savannah, Georgia, and I don't know. I think we came out here because I'm following my bliss. We've talked about, like, at one of the earlier episodes. We were talking about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey and the man with 1,000 faces and that whole process. And I've been kind of leaning into following more of the things that make me happy. And my wife and I decided that we didn't want to live in the mountains anymore and in the cold, and wanted to kind of live by the beach and get a little bit of a different vibe. And there was something kind of like internally that was calling me to out here, and I didn't necessarily know what it was, but I pretty quickly out here got involved with, like, the recovery community, and I went through some internal changes and some external changes, and man, I'm just kind of doing the things that make me happy right now, and trying to get out there and help as many people as I can. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it right now, but it's what I think life has a funny way of just kind of taking you to where you need to be. And as soon as you can, like, remove some of the expectation on what you want your life to look like. And so this is just kind of me going with the flow, and the flow took me out near the beach. So I can't
right near the beach,
yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, so can't complain that much. Yeah. But how are you guys doing? What's going on in your lives?
Oh,
That's a dog right there.
Otto. Now people get to see the dogs that have been annoying.
The terror. Kyle still just hanging in the recovery scene. Very hard and heavy into that. And the same thing as you. Just really committed and kind of doubled down in a more of a personal way in this last year too. Really speaking into that, kind of gone inward to get to sort of my own personal level, to sort of move up to a different message that I think I really wanted to. I needed to get out because I'd been in the recovery community now. Well, I've been sober for 9 years
Congrats.
now. I hit that mark. But you get to a point where you're working with folks in the recovery community, and then it's almost like you feel like you plateaued, and that was where I kind of hit my wall and said, "Man, I need to dig in me and go on my own journey." That started with fitness and health, and really with Alan's help, big time on that one, of course, to kind of guide me through that. Um, just really made a lot of huge interior changes so that I could bring a different message at a different level to uh, my groups that I lead. And as you know, I did a talk at a symposium last January, set to do another one this year again. And I want to make it bigger and better and really represent, in a different way. And that's a personal challenge for me that I've undergone in this last year and a half now. And it's it's really really awesome. It's been awesome to doing along with that hero's journey piece because it all is. And you got to go in to go out. You got to go down to go up. And some people mistake that, I think, in life as a dead end, or I've hit the wall, or I've burned out. No, you hit a plateau that's the universe is begging you to ask yourself, what more can you do, and how much deeper can you dig?
Hmm.
Because you have to go to the next level. And that was what I kind of realized in this last year and a half
Yeah, that's
is that I got to step
yeah,
up.
that's pretty big, man. And that's like if we're talking in like the context of the hero's journey, and they talk about kind of like that phone call. It's almost like the universe or God or like
Yep.
something like kind of calling you up and asking you to like kind of go forth on whatever path that serves you, but also kind of you can bring back to the community. And usually that answering that phone call tends to take us a little bit deeper down that path every time that we do it, and it strips back all the layers of the onion. And then unfortunately that onion is an infinite onion. There's you just keep peeling back layer after layer after layer, and it takes you to a really meaningful place in life, I think. And it kind of sounds like that's where you're at right now.
I'm on one of those tours around that big wheel because, as they say too, is that that call can be a sledgehammer over the head. Like, whoa, a nudge from the judge or whatever it may be, that makes us and forces us, or it can come in the form of a whisper. And mine was really a sneaking up kind of whisper, going, "All right, we're not getting any younger. We got to giddy up." And there's a lot of potential that I'm leaving on the table. So this was a whisper, but it's been another spin on the dial, bro. So that's my thing.
I love it.
Alan, what about you?
Well, not a whole lot, really. Just living, trying to figure out what I want to cut out. Like tired of dealing with bullshit. Like you got to just like get to. I get to. I've gotten to a point now where I think I don't need this. Like drama, people that have like, I'm just like, no, I don't need this. I just want calm and peace and happiness. I mean, you guys know I haven't worked in forever, so you know, kind of working on the cars. The bus is done, but it's going to get redone because the guy that painted it did just a terrible job. So this winter, it's getting another paint job. Um, Dogs are good. Wife is good. I've not meditating as much as I used to, or breath work. Um, I did buy a vagus nerve stimulator, which has been, it's only been a couple days, so I can't give a good review yet. But
Okay.
I did the sleep one last night, and man, I slept like a babe. And then, whoa, holy shnikey! Um, then Phoebe this morning was a little stressed out, so I made her do the anxiety 6 minute thing, and it really did calm her down like immediately. So we'll see.
I want to hear about this vagus nerve stimulator. You got to give us the follow up.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I've been doing so in the morning. It's funny because I Mr. Tech stuff like the Aura Ring, and I was looking at the different programs, and one is for stress, and then I look at the Aura Ring. It says I never have stress, so I'm like, well, do I do the stress program? Probably not. You know, so I've been doing. Yesterday, I did the anxiety one just for fun, and it does calm you down. Um, and it's funny that I'm looking at Crow's guns over there, and he looks good, and he says thanks for helping him get there. But I'm fat and happy right now, so the goal is this winter to lose 25 of these pounds that I put on after the back thing injury. And just trying to get my focus back, and
You're still
yeah,
cycling.
yeah, I still mountain bike. And I've been taking my little 6-year-old, 7-year-old buddy Gus, and he's a beast. Um, he can ride, but he doesn't. I think kids don't really have endurance. So after about 55 minutes, he's like, "Can we get tacos?" So, and then 2 weeks ago we got tacos, and I got food poisoning, which still kind of dealing with. So it wasn't fun.
So this is a whole nother um uh, kid that's a neighbor kid. Kyle, you don't know him. You haven't met this little terror yet. Great kid. It's as though Alan and Phoebe had just sort of taken this kid in, and he comes over to. I call him Uncle Alan now because Alan's just really taking him under his wing and really give him a lot of guidance and just like a second dad, and it's just really cool to
Nice.
watch. Takes him on
Yeah,
out.
well, kind of like a first dad. His dad is nowhere.
Okay.
Um, so I see a lot of me in him. Like, well, number one, he's a normal kid. Like he plays and he runs. Like he was out all day yesterday on his bike, skateboarding. Not like staring at a freaking screen all day like all these kids. So, but he's being homeschooled this year because the schools think that he's disruptive because he'll get his stuff done, and then he has nothing to do while all the other kids are like, looking at boogers on the end of their finger, and he's done. So, he's getting homeschooled, and so I'm his PE class. That's what I call it now. Like, so every Thursday or so, I take him out and we go ride, and he's for his age, he's fearless. Like I look at the rocks going down, and I'm like, pick the line, and he just lets go of the brakes and goes. But
So it sounds like we're going to have to double back to this one of these topics, Kyle. This will be a topic for future episodes, but I want to hear about this because it sounds like they don't know how to teach him.
Mm.
So anyway, we for future topics.
yeah, well, I think I was talking to my retired school teacher lady who walks by every day, and she taught school in New York City in the '70s, and she was saying how when they brought in Adderall and Ritalin back in the late '70s, she just watched the kids turn into zombies. Like instead of saying, well, here's kids with all this energy, let's educate them in a way that works, and we'll just make them all into these like brain dead kids, that follow rules and learn what they're supposed to learn. Um, so I think it's good for him to be homeschooled. Maybe not so much for his mom because he's like wah wah all the time, you know. Um, so that's kind of it for me, spending time with kids, trying to get focused on meditation and breath work some more, get back into shape because I know round is a shape, but it's not the shape I want to be in. Uh, so, like, we went to a birthday party last week, and this guy took a picture, and I'm like, "Who's that fat guy?" And then I was, "Oh, fuck, that's me." So, but mentally good, I mean, I trying to get my sunlight and get the morning sun on the eyes. Crow and I have been talking about that, and we've been listening to some podcasts by Jack Cruz, talking about how important that infrared on your eyeballs is first thing in the morning, like as the sun comes up to reset the circadian rhythm. So now I get up every morning. I think this guy across the street thinks I want to fight because I just stand there with my hands on my hips staring, and it's right at his porch where the sun is about to come up, and he just sits there. But bring it. So,
So I'm hearing that
um,
there's an overall theme going on right now, and it sounds like the pursuit of happiness or kind of chasing your bliss. I mean, that's kind of I'm hearing that
That's it.
play into all three of our backstories right now. Trying to cut out some of the
yeah,
negativity and trying to lean into like doing more things that actually make you happy and give you some sense of purpose. And I think that it's pretty cool to see how that kind of came full circle because we haven't like talked a ton since I moved out here because just the hells of moving across the country. And I mean, it's pretty cool to see like how we kind of all came full circle on that to be able to sit down with each other and we're all in relatively the same place and headspace right now and you know
yeah, I think it's good. I mean, the missing the podcast was kind of sucky, like because it was for me very a part of my purpose, since you guys work, but I don't, so to me it was kind of my job. Um, so finding other things to fill that void, where I'm not spending a ton of money, like car stuff, or but we do have the garden looks amazing this year, so that was kind of my big focus over the summer, and then come winter, the guy that's going to repaint the bus, I'm going to help him put a Subaru engine in it, so it's kind of a swap, because that shit's expensive. um, but yeah, we've been missing you, Kyle.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, glad to be
Yeah,
back.
Kyle. But I like your point too, that it's been this journey that we're all on right now. It seems like we're pretty much on par with each other. It's that search for meaning. It's that search for purpose. And what's interesting is we all talked about going inward in order to find
Hmm.
that, not outward. I mean, so we're looking inward first to the quote, be the change you want to see. So we're all simultaneously at that age where it's like we're not just rushing out here and there, all over the world, or in community, um, just trying to stay busy with things. We're all talked about going inward first, and Alan had an awesome point of what a great phase of life he's in, of just
Mm.
shedding, losing the drama, losing the unnecessary relationships, people, um, just things, stuff in our lives, and I mean that in an outside way, Phoebe's always getting rid of stuff in their house. I know that. But I mean that in an interior way as well. It's metaphorical that every day, almost every year, becomes a big time spring cleaning, and you got to just clean house and say, what have I been carrying? And to some of our previous podcasts, maybe that's too deep a dive right away on you, Kyle, but that goes to for a lot of our traumas as well, that we got to start really, those come up, though, because those aren't going anywhere when they're constantly working with those. But now we have, as we do get older and we do that inner work and we do these things, and the awareness of this change happens, but simultaneously what also comes up with that, of course, is like, well, what's stopping me? Okay, ooh, there's a little, distorted, you know, belief about me that I've always held on to. That needs to go too, you know? I know Alan and I have these conversations. It's like, man, we're too old for that shit. And it's like we need to start dumping a lot of these things and like moving on, and that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting phase that I think all of us are at right
Yeah, and
now
I
too.
think that the it's
It's,
you had mentioned the like the spring cleaning, because it is like the for me my shedding period is a seasonal thing. You know, like it happens
uh-huh. Hmm.
particularly like when I'm dealing with, because lately it's been dealing with expectations and assumptions and judgments, and having like a reoccurrence with shame, and how that shows up and how that showed up in my addiction and how does that show up in my trauma and where did that come from. And just trying to understand everything on a deeper level. And I think that my experience with a lot of like this, the process of like shedding, is that it gets a little bit deeper every time you go and do the work, because I think that you have like a deeper understanding, and like the previous season that you shed, like you're able to take some of the knowledge from that season over into like what you're dealing with, and you're able to kind of look at like your psyche in a different way, and a deeper way, which I think is important. I think where that's where a lot of like the real work comes from. And I think that that's where I think it's so valuable, and I try to share this with my clients about being authentic and leaning into like some of that vulnerability and shedding some of that fear of what other people think of me, but just how tremendously challenging that actually is, and how all of that is linked to that trauma, like you were saying, Crow. And it's like a spider web. I mean, everything is just tangled together. And so it's important, and it sounds like all of us have been continuously doing this. It's just untethering ourselves from all of our bullshit, and just getting back to like who we actually are and what actually makes me happy, and how do I do more of that. Because I think that that's something that a majority of people lack, is that they, for one, don't have like that sense of purpose. And so it's like, okay, why am I even getting up in the morning? Like, how can I continue to motivate myself if I have nothing going on right now? But I think that when you get through majority of that work, you can really start like sharing some of your gifts with the world. And I think that's just kind of the name of the game here, right?
Yeah, and you hit a good point too, because it's like as you do it over and over, the circumstances in life will get better, but they'll just simply change. It's almost like the game remains the same, only players change. But it's the same old trauma response with using different characters. I.e., okay, you mentioned when your how shame showed up in your addiction. Well, now it's like a different game. How is shame showing
Mm.
up in your marriage and in your workplace? It's the same old game with different characters. And I think to Alan's point, we're getting to that point in our journeys in life where we just start going, wait a minute, I gotta just peel it all back and really hold it up in a completely different light and say, as Aurelius said, let me get or Epictetus said, let me get a good look at you, friend. So it's knowing what's underneath all those layers and saying, all right, let's get to the root of it. For a lot of us, that's going to take some serious coaching, you know. So
Well, I think that part of the thing is we wear these masks, and society is so kind of superficial and judgmental that you just get used to wearing the masks, um,
Mhm.
and then it's you wear that thing long enough, it becomes part of you, and that's really kind of trying to be authentic. I mean, I saw a video this morning about being authentic with your wife or spouse is the most important thing, because they need to see you for who you really are, and hopefully they'll still love you, which I think they will. But I think that once you can get comfortable with that, then you move to the external world, and it's hard to do because being authentic is you might um, ruin someone's impression of who they thought you were, or so I think that's part of shedding, like, this is who I am. And then if people are like, well, I don't like you this way, it's like I went out to dinner with a college friend, and he said that the person you are today is nothing like you were in college. He's like, there's nothing. Like, he goes, I wouldn't recognize you, like, there's the shift has been so fundamental. And, at the moment I was like, no, that's kind of bullshit. But then I'm like, well, it's pretty true,
Yeah.
like, and I think that that's kind of the path, like, learning to be true to thine self, right? Um, and it's hard. It's super hard because you know, I don't know if people like it or
Mm-hmm.
not. Like this, and I think the weird part of that is your circle gets so much smaller. Like 20 years, 30 years ago, when I was like partying and having fun, there was always someone to go have a good time with. But that pool was very shallow, but there were a lot of people in it. And now it's like the pool is very
Wow.
small, but it's deep. Like,
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
right. So it's you got to be willing to you know cut bait, and that's hard for a lot of people, because you've got shared experiences, and even if they're superficial, they are still some form of an experience, right? And now you're like, no, this doesn't matter, you know. And it's funny, Chris and I did that. We did a reunion show of our band last summer.
That was over a year ago.
Yeah, and I haven't picked up. And playing music and guitars were like part of my life forever. I haven't touched a
Mm.
guitar since then. I've not picked it up once in over a year, and it's just weird. I mean, I miss it, I love it, but it's not who I am anymore. And that night kind of reinforced, like, I thought it would start the fire again to want to play music and all that. But it kind of made me realize that I love it, but I don't know if it's that
Mm.
important anymore. I do love the creative process, but I don't ever want to play live again, deal with all that.
Yeah.
So, but um,
That was the same experience that I had. And one of the reasons going into it, I was having so much fun with leading up to it because I wanted to see what would happen if I lived into that nostalgia for a night and really gave in to that nostalgia, and if it would rekindle something. And it was like, that was a lot of fun, and I felt like I could really peacefully close the door on
Mm.
on a phase of my life and say, man, great times, but I'm here now. And I'm cool with a much different version of being the wild kids that we were in those band days. I mean, and I'm good. I'm really good. And it was like, no, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
So that was pretty wild too.
that's almost kind of
I
like
think we
shedding
shared that.
part of your identity, or part of who, like what you thought your identity was, and because I'm a musician
Yeah.
too, and I couldn't tell you the last time that I picked up drumsticks. Like I just, like and I think it's just one of those things that like it serves a purpose for us at some time in some phase in our life. And once that's kind of played out, that doesn't mean that like that part of us like doesn't still exist in some capacity. But when we're in like a different season, it's like right now in my life, like there's no need for me to like be playing the drums or anything like that. That doesn't mean, like you were saying, Alan, like that doesn't mean that like I don't miss it. But right now it's like my energy, my mental and my physical energy are taken up by like so many other things and it's also kind of allowed me to dig into some other passions that I didn't even know that were even there in the first place. So it's really about kind of, once we're shedding some of that identity, we can start to see like what is the true identity underneath like what we thought we were, and letting go and kind of detaching from that.
And I would say, most importantly on that, which is really cool, something I've noticed about myself getting older now.
Oh,
Just had
happy
a birthday
birthday.
too, Kyle, by the way. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm not telling you how old. We'll figure that out later. But something that I've noticed is that none of these childhood fancies that we had, interests, hobbies, passions, every bit of that is coming along. Every bit of that in some way. Because what we're doing is we're developing and honing skills on our passions then that become talents later. I know that because, all through since the time I probably left high school, I've been developing on one clear path. And I know as I look in hindsight what that is, and that's in a performance level. And so now I where most people would, that's their greatest fear. The number one fear most people
Mm-hmm.
face is public speaking, right? It's up there. That or skydiving or something stupid. But public speaking, one of the most, and that has always been the arena that I have thrived because I cultivated it from a very early age. I don't know why, what inspired me, but theater, bands, uh, being in that, and now it's been, the course has been altered since my recovery journey to this, which is the message and means by which to communicate that has been honed. So, and I know that's true for everybody. Whether they went some certain path and got a job, but they were science minded and they went one job that seemed like it had no bearing or connection. Well, you look at their path 20, 30 years later, 40 years later, and it becomes very specific to that individual and their successes. So I think from an early age on, I think our
Mm.
passions cultivate our talents at the
Yeah.
ultimate and our meaning and purpose. I really do. And ultimately our meaning and purpose. But in between that is what Alan's referring to is, do you have the awareness to start losing the bullshit that would hold that story back? And that's what I've been noticing about my life. Is like now you get to a point where it's like, well, I need to go to the next level. What's holding me back? No one but Crow and my own limiting beliefs about myself. and doubts and shame and the same stuff you were mentioning, Kyle. So it's like it's up to me to start doing that spring cleaning, cleaning house on me, and saying, "No, Crow, there's no more excuses. Let's cut the crap." So it's time to really dig in and
Hmm.
move on. I don't know if that was a
No, I mean,
tangent
I
or
think that's
what.
I think that's pretty relevant. I think that we become so attached to like our identity and our passions and our gifts and all those things that like we think like define us as people. And in that theme of shedding, like it's so challenging to be able to let some of that stuff go and to like really let yourself step into this new version of who you are, because what that really means is kind of stepping into like the unknown, and the lack of predictability, and relinquishing control and relinquishing expectations about what we think our life should look like. And it's so hard to do that, especially if you've been living in a certain way for so long. Like it's almost become muscle memory to live with like a certain identity. And so to be able to like have the willingness to really let some of that go, it's just like this work that we're talking about right now is not easy stuff. And like being able to step into these new seasons and these new versions of yourself, as frequent as they typically happen, like they're painful. They're really painful. They are. And I definitely don't want to like discredit that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, nothing holds the mirror up more in your face than like exactly what Alan was just saying. When you're married and you're evolving over the years together, and then this is the constant process of that and remaining authentic, and that's not easy. Is to remain authentic. I mean, it's almost like a battle because you're pressing. There's two energies, the one inside ourselves that's constantly trying to unearth that shadow, and then the one on the outside, because we are living in rapidly changing times, really rapid. And so we're trying to keep up with it in two different
Hmm.
battlefronts at once, almost, if you will. But but if you're married like Alan and yourself, then you have somebody to call you guys on your
And
bullshit.
we need that every once in a while, right, Alan? Because we're full of shit
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
oh yeah. So, well, I think that it's interesting. I saw some article earlier today how most people are like, living these, well, that quiet desperation kind of life. Like they have jobs they hate and they just go through it, like, and maybe, I've had this idea and Crow and I've talked about it a little bit. Like there's some people maybe who are aware and then everyone else is like NPCs. Like they're there. They're like background actors in a movie. Like
Yeah.
they aren't they don't they're just there. And sometimes I think about people who are you guys work with that they have these lives that are kind of unfulfilled and they got this giant hole that needs to be filled and they're miserable and so
Hmm.
they resort to substances, right? To kind of either fill that hole
Yeah.
or kill the pain of a life that's not really worth living. Um, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I've been thinking lately. Because yeah, I don't know, man.
Right.
I think Kyle, the following your bliss is good. You know, I mean, I'm of two minds because I'm, like part of me is always concerned about the future, like money or whatever, which I don't need to worry about at all. Like I don't need to worry, but I do worry. And then I'm like, well, I can't do that. Like I haven't gone on a vacation like
Mm.
for 7 years. I haven't left this house, except for maybe a weekend.
Weekend trips.
Yeah, but not even one of those for years. So, and it's not like we can't do it or afford it. I just am like, still have this like kind of anxiety about
Mm.
Yeah.
being destitute, and I think it's partly growing up really poor. Um, that I was talking to my brother about that when we were little, we didn't have a shower. We had a bathtub. So, um, and you're in junior high and high school, and you're having to wash your hair in the bathtub, which isn't going to get it that clean. And my brother, I asked him, I said, why did you get so focused to make so much money? And he was like, I didn't want to ever
Mm.
have to wash my hair in a bathtub again, you know? So it gave him some kind of like super driving focus to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
acquire the financial side. Whereas I think, for me, the spiritual slash just being whole
Mm-hmm.
is more important, you know? I mean, we're really lucky that we've made
Mhm.
decent money and don't have to work. Um, but, I think people just go through this life just like it's just like a machine just churning you know, I don't even, I think that there's a
Mm.
level of hopelessness, like I just got this shitty job at wherever and I'm just going to keep doing this. And then you're growing my age and you're just like, you go home and get your 12 pack of beer and kick your feet up and drink and fall asleep and then do it the next day. And it's just this like, you know, little
Yeah.
hamster wheel towards death. And it's terrible, you know. But telling someone find your purpose and do something that you love, they're like, yeah, it worked for you, but you know, um,
No, I agree. I totally agree, and I think today, with today's in today's world, especially in today's America, I think the jig is up, and I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that with a with the day and times we're living in, with so much, why is depression at an all-time high? Why is social anxiety screaming through the roof at an all-time high with all the social media, air quotes? It's, yeah, we're in a definitely a meaning crisis. We're in a meta meaning crisis, and yeah, there's no doubt about that. We can see it in our culture. We can see it riddled throughout the entertainment industry and the way it reflects that back to us. We see it in our patterns, our behaviors. We see it in the way we shop, the way we consume things, and what we're consuming, and we see it. But we also see the the the
Mm-hmm.
signs of the lashback from it as well, where people are saying, "Wait a minute," and now waking up to it and saying, I'm questioning everything. And while I'm out questioning everything, let me start
Yep.
with my own addiction. you know? Uh, and that typically is a wonderful catalyst there, Joseph Campbell, for the thing that shakes us and breaks us. And I personally have found nothing greater than addiction recovery to be that very thing that shakes you and says, "What are we doing here on Earth? What are we doing with life?" And you know, um, now's the time, and for transformation. I don't want
Mm.
money. I want change. you know, so it's like uh, that's the stuff that sparks me, and also along with that is is what I try to get across in addiction recovery and my spiritual slash the same thing, Alan. What is it? What is it for? Why are we doing this? And let's go for the big kahuna. Let's go for transformation and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really
uncover,
just something to
uncover,
shake us out
uncover.
of our complacency. Because I think that that's really where we get to in life is
Yeah,
just complacent.
yeah.
And we've talked about this in previous podcasts where I can't. There was some podcaster said, I can't remember who it was, but they're talking about how the like some people would be better off if their situation was worse because it would catalyze them into some type of transformation
Hmm.
in their life to be able to to
Absolutely.
it's really hard to change if you haven't really reached that breaking point in your life. And a lot of people, like you were talking about, Crow, have reached that breaking point, and have started to stick their head above the crowd and be like, hey, like this isn't right. This is really not what I want with my life. This is not what I want for society. And I think that that's like a great point for us to be in. I think personally and like societal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to think that moment too, because you will look back one day and really bless the universe, God, creation, the divine, for giving you that opportunity. Because otherwise, as Alan was pointing to, you could live your entire life and just with just enough. And I think a lot of people do. They go cradle to grave and never they're comfortable enough that they never have to quite break out, and when they do, they maybe consume things. Instant gratification pulls them right back into a level of the sedity, and they're just like, okay, well, no, I guess that was just a silly thought. I was just trying to sing the song that's in my heart, but let's just bury that again and just put on another you know uh, movie, or watch another game or whatever it is and consume another thing, and then and we have a world full of that. Now it's gotten so honed in and so tight. It's down to my life could be hours can go by in 30-second quick
Mm,
bites on YouTube Shorts or TikTok and Insta, and you could spend your life
hmm
scrolling at 30-second sound bites, and so definitely the most valuable
hmm
commodity on the earth is your attention. The most valuable. Because if
Well,
they if
maybe.
they
I think time is the most
no,
valuable.
I would say attention, because if they get your attention, they'll get your time, then they'll get your money, and then
Well,
they'll
yeah,
get your
that's
ability.
so that might be the most valuable commodity for a business, or but not for individual. I think time is
Okay,
way more important than your attention.
okay,
Because time is fine, it's really finite,
right.
and you do need to have attention to be focused on your goal. But I think that
Time.
time is really, really valuable. And I'm seriously, I get worried about the next few generations because they've been raised on this,
hmm
YouTube shorts and staring at these screens,
Yeah.
and there's no focus. Like they can't, like, even my little buddy, that I bike with, he'll come over and he's like, I'm going to help you with whatever project you're on. And 15 seconds later, he's like in the garage, like, grabbing every tool. What is this? What is this? Next thing you know, he's out in the backyard, trying to get in the shed because we got him a BB gun. And he's like, I'm getting a BB gun. And I'm like, I'm working on this, you know? And maybe it's being seven, but I do think that there's this next generation who's like, in their teens and younger have just been uh, raised in this
Hmm.
like 8 second attention span, you know, um, and that's whew,
Yeah, it
gonna
is
be
because
bad. I
it's
think it's gonna be
teaching
really really
instant
bad.
gratification. It constantly is depleting dopamine. It's I mean there's a lot of negative things that are happening with that, and yeah, I would have to agree with both of you that like I don't think technology bodes well for this generation at all. And yeah, I think that at least
Interesting.
to the way that it's being used by a majority of them at least.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think you're right on that, because it is a good tool when used right. You know, it's like, say you got a hammer, but and you're trying to drive a screw with it. You know, it doesn't work. You know, so I think the the good side is it's like the Gutenberg press is available for everyone. Like all the information is at your fingertips. But the problem we have is being able to filter, you know, like, like attention. This is what I need to do, you know, and I can use this tool to either get it done or I can rabbit hole and go on some crazy little path that next thing I know, I'm not even close to what I was trying to do, you know. So I think, it's like you've got the world's library of everything ever printed at your fingertips. But to get the information you need can be challenging. And algorithms and all of the things that watch what you've been doing are going to try to lead you to a way for them to monetize
Hmm.
what you're doing and your data, you know. So instead of being able to go to the library and get to one book, they're like, well, you need to give us this, this, and this, and this. Oh, and you agreed to that when you got our browser or whatever. And instead of that, how about this? Because we can't make money off this old dirty book, not dusty book, not a dirty book, you know. Um, so yeah,
So it's like one distraction after another. So it's and here's what blows me away when I step back and think about it. Even go beyond the information at a deeper level is what it's done cognitively to the human brain. Now the human brain. And did you guys hear this story? I don't know if you heard this. I heard this recently, but there was like high school kids that are taking tests, like we used to take a test and you hand it into the teacher. Well, the kids today are going no.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is they can't see the reason for it. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you look at a video game, you play a video game, they fail. Now they know what to do to change that behavior to try again, and then they get further in the game so they can level up. They see it. They see the big picture, so they're getting the entire frame. So the old model, they simply gave us one frame, and then that's how it worked. And I had to wait a week until my teacher got around to grading them. And then it was this process of, you see what I mean? Now, today, kids are learning in real time. So this is why I think the future is really going to lean
Mm.
heavy, which it is anyhow, to tech industry, to not just tech, but things in what's the auto
Mm.
engineering building tech schools, right? Where it's hands on learning, plumbing, electricians. I think That's where it's going to be, because I can do it short term, learn it, understand how I need to solve a
Mm.
problem to move on to the next. There's no more delays in that education. Not to mention, what I'm getting is the biggest thing is consequence. So I'm getting an immediate feedback loop that says, nope, wrong way, try another, and they immediately try another. If there's this big delay, then the
Mm.
brain is saying, well, that's pointless. Don't even play. And I'm not, so I don't
Mm.
see a negative consequence with
Yeah.
not taking a test. You know what I'm saying? The It's not connecting like it used to.
Yeah,
So,
so
because there's a
maybe
whole new
there's
way of
hope
moving
for
through the
the
world
broken
now,
systems right now.
which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different way than we recognize. Yeah, I think it's just going to move extremely faster, but I think it's going to be the younger kids that are going to push it that way in a much
Yeah.
faster way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just going to be interesting to us,
Mm.
to me. Um,
Well,
you know. Well, this was a
yeah,
interesting
need to kind of
first.
get our feet wet a little bit and
Reunited.
kind of explore this, this new journey, because I think that this is a natural evolution to kind of what we've been doing, and I think that I really like talking with you guys, and so I'm really excited to see where this goes, and hopefully, the viewers can get something out of what we do on this and kind of come along with us on this journey, and yeah, I'm excited.
Can you give our Can you give our viewers some
So
ideas about
so
guests in the future?
we have a couple
What are
of
we thinking here,
returnings,
Kyle?
I think on y'all's end. Is that correct? We have Mr. Adam coming in. I think we might. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that would be fantastic. I
We're
have
hoping.
some
Hoping.
people on my side, some clinicians that I work with that work with some very specific trauma work that is very, very interesting to me because of how profound it is, and it's a very evidence-based kind of thing. And I have a couple of therapists that I work with that I want to bring on here. I have another buddy who I work with, and he's another clinician who is right in line with our way of thinking. And so I think we're going to be able to have a really good conversation with him. And I think after we exhaust all of those, I think we're just going to keep expanding our network and just see who we can pull on. And I'm hoping that we can find a bunch of people who know more than we do about specific topics, because I do like to learn, and I hope that we can bring over some useful information to all the listeners and have a good time with this. I would say that I'm pretty excited for this new era.
Right on.
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure as always speaking with y'all. Do you
Absolutely.
yeah. Do you gentlemen have anything else?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been great
Yeah,
seeing
good
you,
seeing you
Kyle.
guys. Yeah, for sure. Thank you everyone for watching, and catch us on the next episode.